Three, two, one. A spiritual solution to a world in crisis. Jay Schreck, Finish Strong podcast. And as always, we'll bring in Mr. C.H. Smith and get the party started in the world's largest small group. Charlie, what's up today? How you doing?
Jay Schreck. I'm pumped up today, man.
Well,
I am pumped
out
up
on the bike and everything. I haven't. I went to the doctors and got blood taken, so I'm not as but I am a little cleaner than normal, which is good.
Yeah, I went hiking before this, so I started thinking about some stuff. Of course, we're going to change some stuff up. I have an incredible story we're going to talk about in this podcast. But before we jump into it, like and subscribe, smash that like button, subscribe. We would love to have you join, as Jay Schreck says, the world's largest small group here. But man, last week, before we get into this week, last week on Doing the Work, that podcast was amazing. And it got me thinking after that. I started thinking of this word, Jeff, calling.
Calling.
I'm not talking about a movie or something like that. You're calling. So we've kind of been trickling down on these four person types from Proverbs. Man, if you go back like a month ago, then we got into a whole bunch of different subjects, then doing the work. And then I think this is kind of like building. In this episode, I think this is number 15, right? This is going to be amazing. So with that, let's jump in to calling. So Jay Schreck, what do you initially think about in, let's say, a paragraph that when you hear the word calling?
You know, I always wondered, I think as a lot of people do when they're going through their youth, about like, you know, what's it all about? What am I supposed to do? What's this journey supposed to be like? And I've searched for that journey, right? And I stumbled into the calling. I stumbled into it by going down a lot of wrong roads and then eventually hitting a brick wall, bam. And then all of a sudden, then I was forced to do the work. And then by being forced to do the work, I realized that that's how I came to what a calling is. And I would say a calling is the same word as I use in humility, is seeking and doing God's work is my calling.
Got it. Okay. Because you haven't looked at the notes on this one, so you're running blind. So this is going to be
I live blind, man. So pull it out and go.
We're going to talk about four concepts that we need to really soak in about calling. So from a spiritual Christian perspective, calling is God's unique purpose for your life, a divine invitation to serve him and others through specific gifts, talents, roles. It's not just a job. It's about living out faith aligned with God's will. So that's a high level definitions, like a Webster's. Does anybody use Webster's dictionary anymore? I don't know.
Yeah,
Wikipedia or whatever. So let's jump into our four concepts here. Concept number one, when you're developing your calling, is a calling is personal and God-given. You talked about that. So God has a specific plan for you, and discovering it comes through seeking him in prayer and reflection. So I'm going to do a verse and then I'm going to hand it off to you. Jeremiah 21:11 says, "For I know I have the plans for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." What say you, Jay Schreck, to calling is personal and God-giving?
You know, I think a lot of times when you're going through this world and you're wondering, like, what am I supposed to do or what am I supposed to be, that it's a self-centered thought. Well, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to acquire wealth. I'm supposed to acquire all these things in life. What's the journey I'm supposed to be in? And the true journey is that I'm supposed to do God's work. And that really is the journey. and you know, I had the cart before the horse, like a lot of people have. I put all those, I call them the blocks, Charlie. I'm going to tell you my blocks, and I don't know if you ever heard my blocks. The number one block is God. The second block is family, and the third block is everything else. And if I keep those blocks in order, God always first, because without God, I don't have a family, right? And then all those other things and when I put those blocks out of order, and I take that everything else, that money, that career, that stuff, and put it above God at all times, I lose the purpose of my calling. And that blocks me from God when I put something above that block that's God, because God gives me my calling and I'm to do his calling. And if I do that, what I found out is the rest of it works itself out even better than I ever could have planned it.
Yeah. So that was really good. I think this is one of the toughest things for people, is to really find out their true calling. And I remember when I quit my corporate America job and I went into, let's call it ministry, nonprofit world, global poverty alleviation, that type of stuff within the church, based off of a mission trip I went on. I remember sitting down with a good friend of mine. I think I can use his name, Tom Stone. And this guy has tons of wisdom. Matter of fact, first time I went to the Far East, not the Far East, excuse me, Asia with him, no country specific. He was with me, and he asked me this question because he had been in ministry. He's like a super wise guy in his 70s. And he said, "Hey, Charlie, I know you're switching out of your old role into this. You just need to make sure what you're doing is God's calling for you." And I don't know, I kind of understood what that was, but he was saying that from a perspective, if you view it as you're inspired to go there or do this or whatever, right? When something gets tough, we talked about this last week, in doing the work, a lot of people bail out. So I took that to heart and really dove into it. But, you know, calling, I think a lot of people, whether it's purpose-driven life or whatever, they struggle with this topic.
You know, I'm into this new thing because you know me, I'm always into a new thing, right?
Oh no.
And my new thing is spiritual maturity, and how important spiritual maturity is. And how do you get that spiritual maturity?
Mm-hmm.
You get it by knowing what your calling is. And because you know what your calling is, you know what you're destined to do and destined to be. And a spiritual calling is sometimes it's not a role that is desired by a lot of people, because when you are in a spiritual calling, a lot of times you have to make hard decisions that you have to be a man or you have to be a woman. And a lot of times being an adult in roles is a difficult thing to do. But if I know what my calling is, I know God's got me, and I can go into situations that normally maybe would have scared me or I'd been afraid of, or, you know, fearful. And I don't have to be anymore if I know that I'm doing God's work. And I don't have to be fearful going anywhere in the world at any time. But I have to know that, you know, most of my problems when I think about things that I'm upset about, it's because either I did not get something I wanted, or I did not, or I'm going to lose something I already have. And if I look at all my problems, they're based usually on those two parallels. And what is that? The spiritual immaturity. That's it. That's a child thought process that it's mine. Okay. It's mine. And so with God, I have to grow up, and to be able to grow up, I have to have purpose and I have to have meaning.
Yeah, that's one of we're going to get in a little bit more in depth into that topic, but that was really, really solid. So that is concept number one. The calling is personal and God given. And with this topic in this index card, I'm throwing it back. Boom. All right. Number two, second concept. Concept number two. I almost feel like a drum roll on this one. I love this. Calling often aligns with unique gifts. The Holy Spirit equips believers with spiritual gifts to fulfill their calling, whether it's teaching, serving, or leading. 1 Corinthians 12:7 states, now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good to each of us. So, what do you say about that? The gift piece? Because we talked, I think this is such a great, if you want to talk about calling, you have to go back to doing the work. When you were just talking, I was thinking about doing the work as you go out and you do the work. And then my belief is that God puts the seeds of the calling, right? And then you start to, okay, here's my unique gifts, right? I can tell you from me doing this, it wasn't like a straight path, like, oh, hey, Charlie's showing up. You go do this, go do that, right? It's been like, it's been a weavy road of doing all sorts of different types of stuff. And then I also think your calling might change. Like God has a different calling for you in different seasons of life. What say to you, Jay Shrek, on that?
I consider myself an acquired taste, and that not everyone likes the flavor that I bring, and I understand that, and I'm perfectly good with that. Believe it or not, I'm very comfortable in my own skin in this day and age. That being said, and the reason I said that is I'll sell you another thing that I was told when I was in the motorcycle business selling motorcycles, and they used to tell me there's a butt for every seat. Now, where that goes into where I'm going is that we all have a unique style and personality, and God needs every one of those. There's not one flavor fits all or one size fits all. We all have unique gifts, unique things that we like to do, whether it be bike riding or skiing or hiking or reading or we have unique skills. And God needs each and every one of us because we all bring a message to reach different people. One message to me doesn't reach everyone. So everyone has a calling. So we're all responsible, not just you or me or Bob or whoever is the next guy or gal is. We all need that because we need to reach each and every one of us. And because we are all unique flavors, we need to be out there to be able to all have a calling to reach God and to give the people out there God's word.
Yes. So good. And Jeff, I think you are a little bit of an acquired taste. You're like
it's bittersweet. There's no doubt about that. Like a good bourbon.
I knew some Dom Perignon year 1959, Jay Shrek.
58. So I just thought that.
I was trying to think of one of those things.
And it's kind of rotten at this point. It's the bottom of the barrel.
I've got an incredible story here. I was thinking about this. So on this calling piece, I'm going to give you a real world story. I'm going to try to do this real short. I used to have this incredible manager before I left corporate America at the prior company I work with. And he was an incredible leader. In COVID, he had all the senior leadership. I used to, I guess, be considered a senior leader back in the day. And we all came into this manufacturing facility in Indianapolis. Can we use full names on this podcast? I just used one. But so the whole senior leadership came during COVID to this manufacturing facility in Indiana. And if you remember when COVID started, it was really tough in manufacturing. Supply chains, the supply chain was a disaster. They reorganized all of manufacturing because everybody was like 6 feet apart, and it was crazy. So my manager, he was like a general manager. He oversaw like all the different business groups of a very large company, billions of dollars. And he had us all come in to celebrate the factory, the workers in the factory. and we gave him Chick-fil-A, and then he stood up there and he gave this speech about how heroic and how much they're valued and their customers value them and so forth. And I noticed in the very front, there was somebody signing, and I didn't know this at the time, but I guess we had like a special needs type of group of individuals who were in the manufacturing facility doing work. And all of a sudden, it's tense time. This is early on in COVID. People start complaining, right? And then our vice president of HR comes up, and like it just got kind of like just real negative, right? Hey, overtime, work, all this type of stuff. And it kind of was taken away, the celebration of celebrating what they do. And this one guy up in the front, the guy, I think he was deaf, kind of short, kind of wee little older guy. He raises his hand, and Phil Bradney, he points at him, and then he starts to talk about how much he appreciated the job in working there and how much he loved. And he used this word. He said, and Phil, I love you. And I've been in corporate America for 30 years. Inside, all of a sudden, I'm starting to get shivers now thinking about it. And I just started kind of weeping, and I'm up on stage. I'm trying to hold it together. And I was like, that's the most beautiful thing I've seen in 30 years in corporate America. And when I was hiking today, I was thinking about calling. And a lot of times we focus and think, oh, I'm going to get to the top of the mountain, and the calling is to yell hallelujah and take a selfie up on top of the mountain. But in the doing the work side, here's this guy, and I'm going to use Phil and this guy, the guy with no name, right? He is right where he is supposed to be in this calling. And because I could see in the midst of turmoil, everybody else was angry, this guy had joy and love in his heart. And Phil, at the same time, I remember him saying back to him, I love you too. I'm about ready to cry. And it was so emotionally moving if you were there just actually listening to what is going on versus all the noise. There's probably 500 people there. And I'm getting emotional right now. And man, I just see those two individuals of right in their calling at that specific time. Now, Phil's a believer. I don't know about this other guy. But man, how beautiful. A lot of times you're like, hey, we need to quit our job and go into a nonprofit. We need to quit our job and do this to help people. Or we need to do that, do these things. But doing the work in your calling might be right where you are today. You just need to realize it and move forward. Sorry about that being long.
I believe if I'm on God's plane, okay, there's a lot of different things to get to this point before you can just say this. So it took me a lot of journey to get to this place, but I started to realize that God is going to put me where he needs me. I don't always know what my task is. See, I work for God. Mm-hmm. Now that doesn't mean I don't go to places and be employed and perform a job, but I don't work for XYZ. I work for God. Mm-hmm. And now I go wherever he wants me to go. And I have the faith that if I go there and I perform his work well, I will be taken care of. Mm-hmm. And so and I didn't always feel that way. So don't get me wrong. It's taken a while, but the last couple jobs that I've been in, I knew that God put me there for a purpose. Wow. And I don't know. And I'm not always supposed to know when I'm doing God's work if I finished the task or I didn't, because sometimes I don't even know what it was. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's not always that poignant point where you go, okay, this is where I was supposed to be or why I was supposed to be here. But I knew I was supposed to be there, especially my last job. I knew that God put me there for some reason. And to this date, I can't tell you why. I don't know why, but I don't need to know why. My job is to do the work and leave the results to God. But I have to do the work. And just like those two individuals in that touching story that you just talked about, you have to have the courage, the spiritual maturity, and the courage to stand up in that time and make a difference when you could be, looked down upon with your coworkers, all the negatives. But you have to have the courage, because you work for God, to stand up in those times and make a difference. And it isn't always going to be that you're going to get to raise the flag. It might not turn out great, but you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're in God's time.
That's so good. That was so good. I'm going to leave it at that, man. That was awesome closing this out. So our concept number 2 was calling often aligns with your unique gifts.
Bam.
So that is it. Bam. All right. Way to round that one out. Concept number 3, calling requires obedience and faith. Stepping into your calling can be challenging. Demanding trust in God's plan, even when the path isn't clear. Hebrews 11:8 illustrates this by faith. Abraham, when called to a place he would later receive his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he didn't know where he was going. What say you, Jay Shrek? Obedience and faith.
When I look at obedience and faith, I also look at discipline. Obedience and discipline being similar, right? And I have to be disciplined if I want to get the job done, if I want to have a purpose and a direction. And I find it so critical. I will tell anybody on here, Charlie, and this is a little off base here, but I'll tell anybody, if you want to change your life, and I mean this to hear, right? When you get up every day before you do anything, you pray to God and thank God for this day, and then you meditate. If you can only meditate 5 minutes, stay there quiet, give God 5 minutes of your time. That's it.
5 quiet minutes.
Change you. I guarantee you. Then you make your bed. Well, why would you do that? That's a discipline. That is a discipline that says, you know what? I'm going to have a good day today because I prayed to God, thanking him for today. I've checked in with God, and I've done one discipline that maybe I never have done, right? And so that discipline is going to allow me to go do God's work that day. And any day my bed is made is going to be a good day because I know I've checked in with God. And, I don't look at direction. I don't know what God's purpose for me today. I go do my stuff. I get a hold of people. I talk to people. I just go wherever God directs me to go. And if I'm doing God's work, which is trying to make sure that people understand that they're not alone, that they're not by themselves, that they're in the world's largest small group, and everybody's welcome in here, then that's all there is to it. But I have to be disciplined to do that on a daily basis because all I have is today. And there was silence.
I know. You made me want to use our special co-host. We haven't used a co-host in a while. Gronk.
Pull Gronk up.
And when you said 5 minutes, and what I have, meditation studies like the 2017, okay, that's way out of whack. That's old. Show about 14.2% of U.S. adults practicing meditation at least once in the past year. All right, that doesn't give us much. So I do think it's a very, very small percentage. All right.
Well, my thing, Charlie, is that I will guarantee this. I'll put a rubber stamp on this. It will change your life completely. I will guarantee it. Not just maybe. I know it, and I know people on this discipline, and I know people that live this. And how can you go wrong if you're going to give God the first 5 minutes of your day? How can that go wrong? It can't go wrong.
It can't go wrong. Give it a shot.
What do you got to lose?
That's it.
I'll refund your misery twofold.
Well, that rounds out concept number 3. Jay Shrek, that was beautiful. Calling requires obedience and faith. Bam.
And where do
That
you
was a
get faith?
comebacker. You got to get the bam going the right way
You know,
with the index card.
and
All
then
right.
where does faith come from, right? Work. Faith
Yes.
without works is dead.
Is dead.
That's my favorite all time. Will always be that way, and I'll die with that one. How's
James,
that?
you're the James 2:17 guy. All right, number 4. Here we go. Concept number 4. Calling is about glorifying God and serving others. Your calling isn't just for personal gain. It's about advancing God's kingdom and blessing those around you. Matthew 5:16 encourages, let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. What say you, Jay Shrek, about glorifying God and serving others?
You know, I come from a situation where I was in peril, and when I was in peril, I asked God to help me, and I asked Him. We talked about that before, but I asked God, if you'll relieve me of the bondage of self, I'll do your bidding. And I made that statement, and I've held on to that statement now for 20 years, and I mean it. And guess what happened? God removed the bondage. And guess what? My side of that deal was that I will work for you. I will do your bidding wherever I go, however I do it. I will make sure that I ever turn my back on the fact that I know what it is. And, you know, I understand today that people get in trouble when they think the gift that they have was theirs. If you're a great writer, that is awesome, but God gave you that ability to be able to spread the message. If you're a great painter, that's great, but that's God's paint. Okay, if you're a great singer, that's great, but that's God's voice. And if I understand that I've been given these gifts to do and perform different tasks, and maybe one of them is I'm a carpenter. I build beautiful furniture, but that's God's gift. He gave to you to share.
Jay Shrek, that was amazing. And that ends our concepts. The calling is about glorifying God and serving others. Boom. Hey, in our 2-minute warning, here's how I'm going to spend my minute. 1, in summary, calling is personal and God-giving. It's a personal thing. Concept 2, calling often aligns your unique gifts, right? It's about unique gifts. 3, obedience and faith matters if you want to find your calling. And number 4 point is calling is about glorifying God and serving others. I will leave with a story that I love, and I've told this many times in villages across the world. And it's Ecclesiastes 9:13, and it's a story of wisdom, but it's about a man with no name. So there's a lot of times in the Bible as you don't really read, they talk about names. So Solomon, when he wrote this, there was a man with no name who had wisdom, who saved his village using his wisdom from a big force that was coming, military force. And to me, that individual with no name in a small village who saved his village, he was doing his calling all along, right, for that moment in time. He was doing the 4 steps that we just talked about, and he saved his village. Like, a lot of times we have a challenging time to do the work, to go through these 4 steps. We want immediate results, but maybe your life and your calling may be about a period of time that's in front of you, and God hasn't revealed that to you, and that's okay. You just need to be faithful. God bless you all. Shalom. Jay Shrek, close us out.
You know, I don't have a spiritual bank account, right? And so what does that mean? What that means to me is that my faith is daily, and the work that I do today and my faith that I have today is for today only. And just because maybe I had a great spiritual day today, if I don't do the same thing tomorrow, then I might not be on the same plane. So every day when I close my day out, so I wake up and I pray and meditate. I close my day out by saying, God, did I do your work today? Was I of service? Was I obedient? And that day's done. And when I wake up, my bank account is 0. I don't carry anything over from yesterday. Nothing. 0. So that spiritual bank account has to be started all over again. And so the work that I do today is only for today. And when I live my life that way, Charlie, not thinking that, well, I'll just carry it over from yesterday. You know, as they say, I can't stay clean on yesterday's shower. Okay, it's the truth that the work that I do today is for today. And I think we get lost in yesterday and tomorrow. We live in the future, we cry in the past, and that's not where life is. Where is God today? He's right now with me in this moment. That's where God is, and that's where I need to stay. And if I'm just doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing and being good to human beings out there, even the ones that are horrible, which they're out there, and I can be that horrible guy too, I'm doing God's work. God's work is every minute. God's work's waving at my neighbor instead of closing the garage door and acting like he doesn't see me.
Usually I shut up, but I have to say something here. So I was thinking, you've been doing the work for decades. If you're showing up to this podcast, first time you've listened to us, or maybe you're listening to us and you just don't know where to go, I think the starting point is exactly where Jeff said. It starts with waking up, meditating, praying to God, give God 5 minutes, ask God for your calling, right? Be patient, do this over and over, make your bed. Jeff's big on making a bed. I make my bed too. But just start there. Everybody has to start somewhere. Sorry about that, Jeff.
No, that's that simple start of a simple discipline. Most of us aren't disciplined people. And how do you start that? You start that by one practice at a time, right? Give God 5 minutes. I didn't say an hour. I didn't say 20 minutes. I said 5 minutes. Give God your first 5 minutes of the day. Ask for guidance and directions and start it that way. Make your bed. Why? Because you know it's going to be a good day because God's in your life, because you've already invited him in every day. And at the end of that day, cap it by saying thank you for your guidance. Do I owe an apology to anybody? Have I upset anybody? Was I dishonest? All those things that you need to do at the end of the day. And guess what? You sleep like a baby because you're not carrying. Yesterday's done. I don't care if you did the greatest job ever or the worst job ever. It doesn't matter at this point. It's over. And so you carry that clean slate into tomorrow. And yeah, I won't say that the wisdom of some years of doing this doesn't help you within your day. It absolutely does. But I can't live on that. I can only live on the moment I'm in. And every day I thank God for my health and things like that, because I know any day, life can change in a minuscule, and it's supposed to. It's God. Life is lifey because you need God in it. That's the whole purpose, to have God in there to guide and direct and to do his bidding.
Love it. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, everybody. God bless you guys.
Cool. Adios. Remember, regardless of what you've said, done, or been, God still loves you. All you have to do is ask. And it's as simple as that. If you want to change your life, start it as simple as getting up in the morning, praying, thanking God for this day, and then ask God for guidance and direction. Sit quiet for 5 minutes, make your bed, and it will change your life. I will guarantee that. I'll put it in writing. Not too many guarantees like that. And as they say, adios, amigos.